All right, so let's see. Sound check 1, 2 looks good. So a little sound check here. Oh, nope, that sound check is not working. Let's fix that. All right, that sound is now working. And I'm going to go ahead and post a couple of links here and there. I'm going to go grab the YouTube URL. So what we're going to be working on, which I'll go again once we actually get started, is bootstrapping the network. So what I mean is you go into the data center and you've got your line and it's got internet on the other end of it, but you have to somehow take advantage of it. And so that's what we're going to be working on. To get started. There we go. Is bootstrap. Whoop. All right, there we go. Put this on the X verse first. There we go. Beep boop, beep boop. Alrighty. I'm going to put that one there. Going to drop this one here. Rump, rump. And then I think there's another channel. I might drop this in. And then I think we'll be good. And then let me get the chat up. Okay, and chat's up. All right. So with that all... Oh, what am I turtlenecking here? I don't know why I pulled my zipper up that high a few minutes ago. Okay. So yeah, I think we're about ready to get started. We are going to go through a Proxmox install, but I timed it. It was like 8 minutes, so not a big deal. But that's where I want to be because, well, I'll just get into it. We're just going to go ahead and start. Let me see. Was there anything else I need to do? I posted in Discord. I posted in Colo Slack. I posted on the Twitters. Oh, and I need to do a retweet on the Twitters. The X's, whatever. Let's go ahead and boom, boom. Alrighty. Okay. So, with that out of the way, I'll go ahead and drop the one of the Discords in here. There we go. In case anybody wants to join in on that, feel free to ask questions there. If you want to share links there, you know, if you want to ask a question that needs a link, put it there. And there's a Colo channel. So, all right, yeah, we'll just go ahead and get started then. Wrong button. The other button's right next to it. Okay, so here we are. Boo. All right, boys and girls, ladies and gents, what I'm here to teach today is how to bootstrap your network. So when you go into the data center, you're going to have an Ethernet cord hanging down, well, probably coming on the inside of the rack, and you've got your instructions for your WAN there, and there's a little bit of a juggle that you have to do because you don't want, generally speaking, your instances that are on Proxmox to be directly on the WAN. You want them to be firewalled. So we're going to do this in the most difficult way possible, but in a really simply. So one thing that I need to do before we get started here, let me make sure that my network adapter, not network adapter, I meant to say my capture card is in the right mode, and it is. So we are just going to take about 8 minutes, fingers crossed, to get this system back up and running. Oh, whoops, and I forgot to grab, come on, camera window. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Is that turning on? That's not turning on. I think I had unplugged this. Let me go plug it back in. And we'll bring this window over here. I have a screen now so that we can see things easily, because last time we couldn't see things easily. Also, last time I tried to bite off too much at the same time. So this is a redo of last time. I unlisted that video because it was just bad. It didn't provide a lot of value. So we're redoing that. Okay. Oh no. Before you put your power cable in the rack, make sure it's turned on so you don't have to futz with it. Come on, where's that? Where's the little... Come on, where's that? All right, there we go. Ooh. Okay, here we go. So now I should be able to press this button. Oh, and we had a little bit of static discharge on the camera there. Just a second while I disconnect and reconnect that. Just popping in because I found you through GameCube. In. I am doing some co-location stuff, so servers. All right, so hopefully we'll get all the video back. Alrighty, there we go. Video's back. So now I should be able to press the power button on here. And now that I have it connected to a monitor with a low enough resolution, we should be able to see it boot. All right. There we go. Awesome. So what we're going to do... Oh, I didn't stick in the boot card. I got ShredOS on here. And this is an important step because if the installer on Proxmox fails... the main reason it's going to fail is because the hard drive has an LVM or ZFS volume on it that it's going to try to recover. And that's not going to work. So I stuck the USB with ShredOS on there. So I'm going to go down here. Whoop. If I can get there, we're going to go down to... This is the USB drive with ShredOS. This is going to take a minute to boot up. And yeah, you can see it's loading right there. And this is going to allow us to just wipe all the drives at the same time really quickly. We just need to get all the boot header stuff out of the way so that when we go to install Proxmox, it doesn't get confused. Because I've noticed multiple failure modes now with that. So yes, the ATA inside, so that's the SSD and the NVMe. We want to wipe both of those, and then I can do capital S for start. And then we only need to give this just a minute. I mean, it's like it says, it's writing 400 megabytes a minute, 600 megabytes a minute. So at this point, we have well overwritten the boot sectors. I can just hold down the power button, turn this thing off. And now we're going to be able to install Proxmox without a problem. So if I did not do that, there's a couple of different errors that can pop up. One of them is it'll say EFI not found. That's if it was the drive was previously in had a LVM volume, but it didn't have a boot folder on it, so it was not an OS thing. I can't remember what all of them are, but there's 2, maybe 3 error messages that I've encountered that way. So now I've got the Proxmox installer in. This is going to be real quick. The hardest thing about this is that I type on QWERTY and I have to use Dvorak, and I have to use a QWERTY keyboard for this process. So graphical install, yeah, sure. And it'll pop up. It's going to take a little second longer than it needs to as it tries to detect the network, and it's not gonna be there, or maybe it will be. I got the network unplugged because we're going to do this full bootstrap just like at the data center. So this is popping up here. All right. End user license agreement. I agree. We're going to select well, actually, we don't need to select anything. So again, I have now been convinced that ZFS is, generally speaking, the way to go. So we're going to use ZFS. I'm not going to explain that right now other than to say that that's what I'm choosing. I'm going to go back and retrofit that into some of the other material later. But we can use RAID 0, and then we only have to use one disk. So I'm using the SSD in RAID 0. I get to just use one disk and get all the benefits of ZFS other than the actual RAID benefits. So next, all right, United States, nothing crazy there. Then we're going to pick the time zone. So boop, I'm going to pick Denver. Next. Okay, so for the password, I actually have a really great password now, if I can remember it. Whoops. If I could just not fat finger on this QWERTY keyboard. I'm fat fingering it. Okay. All right, let's try this again. And then this is going to be lab 2 at therootcompany.com. I do this every time on the QWERTY keyboard. I get those two out of order. And that should have been a lab 2. So hopefully... Oh, passwords don't match. Of course they don't. All right, I'm going to type it slower. All right. Okay. Boom. And then this one, we're going to call this MPLX1. I'm not using PVE1 because I have multiple labs and also a production cluster, and I just want to have more descriptive names because I don't want to get messed up. So this is mplex1.lab2.therootcompany.com. Did I spell it right that time? Can always fix that one later. And then, okay, we're going to set this up. We're not going to have internet right away anyway. So we are going to set this up with what we want to be our management network. And I'm going to choose 172.18.0.31. And we don't actually have a gateway yet. I could put in the WAN address, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then, you know, if I could just plug in, I've got the cable hanging there in the rack. I could plug that in. I could have internet access instantly just by using an IP in my assigned range for my network, but I'm not going to do that yet. So this is the network that I want to have as my management network. That's the network that I actually want to be my default. And it's pretty common to choose 172 for the management network. I'm choosing 172.18 because my other lab is using 172.16. And I've seen that pretty often because you want to have your 10 and your 192 often available for your instances in your cluster. So anyway, there we go. Got that. Automatically reboot after install. Boom. Okay. So this is just going to take a minute. We can chat while that's going. And it's going to be super fast because it is the SD card. So we spent more time talking and typing than it's going to take installing. Going from the SD card to the SSD over USB 3 is pretty fast. So anyway, what's up? How y'all doing? Anything you'd like to know? Did you watch any of the previous videos in the series? Any clarifications or questions there? So I guess I'll take a minute to talk about ZFS. So ZFS, there's some myths about it. I'm actually going to do a presentation on it, not this week, but next week at the Utah Colo meetup. You can use ZFS with a single drive. There are some things that you need to be concerned about with ZFS on RAID hardware. I think that there are some conditions under which you can do it if you have to, but there's risks involved. And so it's, you know, it's like more research, more figuring out, does my RAID controller do this or not, that sort of thing. Some of the problems are alleviated by having a battery backup, which many RAID controllers do. But the other problem, the biggest problem, is if they don't pass through errors correctly, because ZFS does its own error handling and wants to be in control of the drive for that, and that could lead to data loss. You don't have to worry about power failures with ZFS. It is actually incredibly resilient against power failure in terms of any transactional writes. So if you have a database that is bundling things up and then doing a sync, those are going to go through with ZFS just fine. Okay, so that's it. Now we're ready to reboot. Oh, it's already rebooting. And we're pretty, almost done here, except now I got to do exactly the same thing I'd got to do in the data center. So now we got to have a switch that's set up that it actually, at this point, it's fine if it's not a managed switch. It could just be a plain switch. I just need to be able to get on here on the same network, and I'm going to go into my system settings, and I'm going to change my IP address to match the one that I have here. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way. We might not even need that again. So the network that I chose for my management network, I'm going to be using on this Ethernet adapter. So I just need to go in here, TCP/IP, manual. We're not going to have internet access through here, but you know, in the data center, you're probably going to have Wi-Fi access or another Ethernet access, something that you can plug into to get internet. So anyway, 172.18.0. And I'm going to pick something that's normally, well, actually, no, I just like using 86 because that's my birth year. So that's what I like to use. This would actually be 255. That's fine. We're not going to have a router yet. So we're going to leave that alone. And then with that, oops, I took that away too fast, just so you can see there. With that, we should now be able to get to our Proxmox instance. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that here. Maybe I get lucky, maybe I don't. I'm going to double check where that's plugged in. Oh, I know one thing that I need to do. Currently, I have Proxmox plugged into the management port, but we have not set up VLANs yet. So I need to switch it over to an access port. So let me go ahead and do that. All right. And that one, is that going to be a good one or not? That might be a problem. I set that one to 401 and that one to 402. Maybe I just need to put both of these in the same for right now. That'll probably be best. I'll bring them both over here to the management network. That's what I'll do. So they should have the same default VLAN in the port that I plugged them into. I could have just used a plain switch. That would have been better for this particular thing right now. Thought you're mostly developers. A bit weird to see you configuring infrastructure. Yeah, well, you know, people don't really care about the quality of their code that much anymore, but they do care about the quality of their infrastructure, it seems. So I am potentially pivoting. At least I want to be picking up more clients in that space because that's where I got my start, was in IT. So going more into the enterprise IT space is an area where I feel really comfortable and at home. And I'm not stopping software development. That's still the majority of my income, but I am moving more towards enterprise IT because I like the ethos there. And I've got the background and the history, and yeah, so I feel good about that. All right, so we do have a little bit of a problem, and I'm actually, Mac is really finicky when it comes to VLANs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Manage Virtual Interfaces. So I'm here under Network. I'm going to go to Manage Virtual Interfaces, and I'm going to delete this VLAN. I'm going to delete that VLAN. And then, okay, we should have, okay, those disappeared. That's good. I'm going to disable this and then re-enable it. All right. And let's see if this will work now. Okay, it's still not working. Let me double check that I'm plugged in where I think I'm plugged in, because I might have grabbed the wrong connection here. Okay, that's the white cable, and this is the orange cable. This orange cable goes into the switch. That's what I expect. And okay, I'm going to try one more thing, and if this doesn't work, then I don't know. I'll just swap them back again. I should have just used a plain switch for this, or reset that. In fact, I may just reset it. I'm going to just take my reset pin. I'm just going to reset the switch because with what we're going to do right now, we will need a VLAN on the switch, but it's not something that we need imminently to get started. So I'm just going to hold in the back here. I believe the count was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. After the first light blink, let it go. Otherwise, if I keep holding it, it'll go into a reboot mode. Thanks for the Git notes. Really useful. You are welcome. Okay. Come on, baby. Yeah, there we go. All right, sweet. So now that the switch is reset, we don't have any VLANs on it. There's no management on it. And that's just fine. We're gonna get it set up, but we'll start with where we're at here. So I'm gonna go ahead and enter in root and my awesome new password that meets all the password requirements of everything that I have and is relatively long, I think. Yeah. Okay. So we're logged in, and our goal is to have internet access for our server and have internet access for our guests. One thing that I'm going to do, because this only has one NIC, one network card, we are going to go in here and we are going to pretend like we have more than one. Actually, we're not going to do that yet because we don't need to do that yet. So here's what we're going to do instead. We are going to, what was it, 192.168.0. I'm going to create a VLAN that is for the management of the switch. And, sorry, let me back up a little bit. Let's go into Data Center, and let's make some notes for what our plan is. So, sorry, I did that a little quickly. Data Center, notes near the top, edit. This is a markdown file. So, goal, set up WAN, well, get internet access on Proxmox. Get internet access to guests. So this is on management network, and this will be on guest network 1. What did you call that? Guest net 1. Maybe GST net. I think that'll fit. GST1 net, guest net. And in order to do this, we want to set up pfSense. And there's going to be some issues that we're going to encounter where we're going to need to do some reboots of stuff, because there are certain changes that when we make them, they don't take right away. And if you try to debug them, it can just lead to pain and suffering. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. So WAN, LAN, and opt. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to go ahead and move these over into the ports that I want them now. Move this over here and move this over here. I'm also going to put the switch on the management LAN. That's actually the first thing that I want to do. So I'm going to put that in the goals here too. Put switch on management LAN. All right. So with that, first, this switch, in order to set it up, I'm going to have to change my IP address again, then I'm going to lose access to the server. That's fine. So we're going to go back here, and now we're going to do 192.168. Whoops. .0. Again, I'm going to pick 86 because that's the number I like for myself. That's going to be fine. And then I believe it was 239. This is according to the Netgear documentation. So I looked up the Netgear documentation. That's its default. So it is HTTPS 192.168.0.239, if I remember correctly. Let's see if I do. If not, I'll just look it up real quick. So I should have Netgear ProSafe. Oh, I forgot. One other step you have to do is manually power cycle this. after you reset it. If you don't manually power cycle it, most of it resets, but the default address for the management doesn't reset. I had this problem before. There's all sorts of little things like this that you gotta just don't be afraid to restart and reset things when you're getting things booted up, because with all this network equipment and servers and stuff, there's little gotchas like that. You know, what's the reset process? Well, it has to be turned on. It has to be fully booted up. Then you do the reset pin for 3 to 5 seconds. Don't let it go to 10 seconds. Then let it reboot on its own. Then power cycle it, right? So anyway, I will just look this up again real quick. This is the GS105E manual. We'll just grab that just in case, but I think this should load now. Let's see, 192.168.0, 192.239. I might have the manual wrong, and this is the V2. So search Netgear ProSafe GS105E manual. This is the V2 manual. That's actually what I have. And then 192.168.0.239. Oh, HTTP. Sorry. Also, there's stuff like that. So this one opens up on HTTP. I think once you configure it, then it goes for HTTPS. I'm not sure. This password doesn't matter because it's over HTTP, so I'm going to use a junk password with this that meets its requirements. Oh, no, the password on this is, what is it, password? Yeah, the password to get in here is password, then it makes you change it, and then it has all these junk requirements. Meanwhile, it's over HTTP. So, you know. Oh, actually, wait. There we go. All right, so is it still over HTTP, or did it go back to HTTPS now that? Yeah, okay. So we're just going to turn that off for the registration. All right, so now that I'm in here, I've got 5 ports on this thing. I need 2 trunk ports and 2 access ports and the WAN. So that's how we're going to set this up. I'm going to go into VLAN. I'm going to go into 802.1Q. And we're going to go into basic in this case because the advanced isn't advanced enough. And so I end up having to use the basic. So this is going to be a trunk port. It's got to be called all. So port 1 is going to be a trunk port. That means it's going to be able to service all VLANs. This is primarily for the... this is going to be MPLX1. This is going to be MPLX2. This is going to be our witness node. So we're setting up a cluster. That's what we're getting towards. This one is going to go on the management network, which I'm going to make 401. And this one is going to be the WAN, which I'm going to make 601. Again, these numbers are arbitrary. Oh, I'm also going to put this one on 401. These numbers are arbitrary. I chose them just because I like them. I associate the number 4 with management for whatever reason. Not a synesthesia. I just like associate 4 with red and with management. And then 6, I don't know. I just chose that for WAN, because the 5s is where I want to have the guest networks and the internal networks in the 500 range. No, sorry. In the 500 range is where I want the business and network stuff. Like if we have security cameras or IoT or anything like that. And then 1001 is where I want to start the guests. But that's all just personal preference. I put that in a spreadsheet. I write it down. That's what I want to do. So the trunk ports are going to have access to 401. They're going to have access to 601. They're going to have access to everything. So we're making some networks, and we're allowing these networks to use these different ports. The management network is allowed to use ports 3 and 4 as access ports, meaning that the devices connected there don't need any configuration. The WAN doesn't need any configuration. It's going to go into port 5. And then the things that do need configuration are going to be 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are going to have a default. I don't know if I don't even get to set it, unfortunately. Okay. So that's up. VLAN 1 cannot be deleted. Right. Okay. So we need to go find out where that snooping is. I guess it's over here. Is that what it's talking about? Broadcast filtering is disabled. Let's go under system. We actually want to put this on the network. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to get the rest of this set up before I do. Somewhere in here, there's a setting. I might have already just passed it. That it was just talking about, okay, maybe it's under maintenance, maybe it's under monitoring, multicast, it's under multicast. So VLAN for IGMP snooping, I don't know. I'm just going to disable that right now because I don't know where I want that to go. So I'm only doing that because it gave me that pop-up. So we'll go back into VLAN 802Q basic enabled. All right, so we're going to do all 401, 401, and 601. All right, there we are. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. Now that's applied. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go under system here. Oh, am I not connected to this anymore? Okay, let me move this over. Interesting. Okay, so I had to move it into an access port to access it. That's interesting. So switch name, lab switch, let's call it 1. DHCP mode, I actually do not want that enabled. We're going to disable that. That's fine. And then we're going to put in here an address on the management network. So I like 172.18.0. So I have my router stuff starting at 1. So I like to start my switch stuff at 11. So this is going to be 172.1.8.11. Subnet mask doesn't need to change. Gateway address. I don't know why it would need a gateway address, but it will be this eventually. So we'll go ahead and apply this. And it's not going to give me a result because it's already goofed, I guess. So we'll go ahead and change this back again. All right, 172.18.0.86. That's what I want my computer to be. And it's plugged into an access port for 401. So let's go ahead and see if we can get into here again at the new address, which is 172.18.0.11. And this is HTTP. All right, it's coming up. I'm going to go ahead and bookmark this at lab 2. And then we'll go ahead and use our really stupid password that anything on the network can sniff to get in here. And let's see from here. I don't think that we need to do anything else in here, but I'm just going to leave this up so that we can see it. Oh, that's weird. That's very weird. Oh, no. Port-based LAN. No, I don't want to enable port-based LAN. Okay. That's why. Port-based LAN is VLAN is not actually VLAN. All right, so that's, I'm just going to leave this up here. I'll actually take a screenshot of it so that we've got it. All right, and then hopefully we'll be able to make quick work of this. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get the WAN. We're not going to be able to do anything with the WAN yet. So I guess we'll just leave that as is for now. But I should now be able to get back here. So I'm switching over to the server that we're working on. So now we can start to get the network set up with this. So let me go ahead and do that. All right. Now, if the switch we were using was more advanced, I would like the default VLAN ID for the trunk port to be the management port so that when we're setting these up, we can set them up without having to worry about configuring network access. But due to the limitations of this, I don't want to deal with it. Well, I guess I could, but no, I don't really want to deal with it right now. So, all right, we're in here. Is stuff loading? Or is it not loading? Do I need to reset anything? 170. Oh, I need to move it over to an access port because it doesn't have its VLAN set up yet. Okay, that's fine. So both of these things are now on the 401. And again, these are just numbers for the networks, because we're setting up multiple networks. It's just numbers for the networks. It's nothing too crazy. All right. So now we're going to move this network over to a management VLAN. And that one does not need to be, actually it does need to be accessible by pfSense that we're going to virtualize. So we are going to create it on top of the VMBR0. So Linux VLAN, VMBR0. And we do know what address we want here. Unfortunately, it's the same one as that. So we're going to have to take that one off and then switch this one over and make it work just right. And then we're going to have to reboot this thing. So this is going to use, this is going to use VMBR0. What's the name of this? The name of this is going to be MGMT for management. And then we're going to do 172.18.0. I'm going to do 30 for right now, but we'll fix that in just a minute. And then we don't need to put it, and then we need to put the /24 at the end. And we don't need to put the gateway in yet. We'll do that in just a moment. So for this, we're just going to get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of that. And that's going to be okay. We are going to make it VLAN aware. All right. And then we have not applied these changes yet. So that's why that's why it didn't break. Because we can make multiple changes before we need to apply them. Okay. So this is now set up so that we're going to have network access on it. So there we go. Now, when I click apply, what's going to happen is it's probably going to not work really well, and it's probably going to need a reboot. So instead of clicking apply, I am going to do something else first, which is that I'm going to see, hopefully we have screen on here. No, we don't have screen. Okay, well, let's see what we can do. I'm going to do a sleep 30 system CTL reboot. Okay, so we got 30 seconds to confirm that we're doing what we want to do. Let me go back here real quick. This is on the right VLAN. Let me go ahead and make sure that I can see everything at a glance. So VLAN ID, we don't need to see bond mode. We don't need to see VLAN aware right now. All right. So that looks right. That looks right. This is not right. We want this to be 31. I'm glad I double checked. Want that to be 31. And that should be good. So we're going to click, we're going to go back to shell, and we're going to do sleep 30 system CTL reboot. Boop, enter in that. We're going to go back over to network, apply configuration. Yes. What I am suspecting. Oh, oops. They didn't wait 30 seconds. It just started rebooting. So we'll see which one won in terms of if it reboots with the right configuration or not. I can see here that it's rebooting. That's how I knew. So it's coming up. All right, so let me explain a little bit. I think that with this setup, if you're just following along, it's best to just follow along and not try to understand everything. We have multiple networks. Normally we associate networks with IP addresses, like a 192.168.0 network, .x, 192.168.1.x, 10.x.x.x, 172.16.x.x. But in this case, we are... Okay, I think that it started rebooting before I was able to click apply. In this case, when we're working at the VLAN layer, it's a layer down. So rather than providing the network address that we intend to use, we're creating a VLAN ID, and then we're going to map the VLAN ID to the IP address at a higher level, which is what we did here. So the numbers are arbitrary. We're just saying these are separate networks. We don't get the traffic to get confused. We don't want it to be like when you plug two routers into the same building. Like lots of people had that problem people that are my age had that problem in high school. Somebody would come in and bring a router, plug it in. Half the computers in the school wouldn't work. because of the DHCP problems. So we want it to be nice and clean. And that's why we use VLANs to help us separate. Anyway, so I'm going to log in here. All right, I'm in. Oh, you know what? I think it might have taken place. I didn't move this over to the trunk port. Let's see, did it work? It looks like it may have worked. Okay, let's try it again. So I had it plugged in here where it was receiving 401 by default. It didn't need configuration. Then I configured it to explicitly use 401 on a trunk port. So now because it's a trunk port, it can do anything it needs to know. Specifically, it should use network 401. So let's see. Can we get this to reload? All right, got it to reload. Cool. So it actually did work just fine. I just needed to switch the ports. And the reason that I didn't just try it without rebooting is because I know from past experience that when you're first getting this set up and you're making several changes at once, sometimes you lose network connectivity when it's a straight up change, not additive, but you're actually swapping things around, and you're swapping around your management network, which hopefully you're only doing once on install. It's clean. I've spent time debugging problems that didn't need to be debugged just because it was too many state changes at a time. And again, in the early stages, getting the network set up, a lot of times it's just better to reboot the thing. Okay, so now we got that set up. We're going to need something for guests. But we're going to get to that later. And let's see, do I want to do anything else here right now? I don't think so. So now what would be really great is if we could use the WAN and get internet access. The problem is that, well, we got a couple of problems actually. Let me adjust something. The problem is that we need pfSense really to do that. I've already downloaded pfSense, so let's do it this way. Let's do it the way that I'd actually do it, because I don't want to have to finagle with this thing. I don't want to have to do more setup and then undo setup. This is what I want my management network to be. I don't want to add the WAN onto here and then remove it, yada yada. So this is the way that I'm going to handle this problem. Is I am going to show you how I downloaded pfSense. So when you get pfSense, and the reason I'm picking pfSense over OPNSense is because pfSense has a training program and certification. The support model is comparable. It's different, but I don't know that either is better or worse. The security updates come first through pfSense, then through FreeBSD, and then through OPNSense, because OPNSense doesn't work at the kernel layer as much as they work at the UI and API layer. So pfSense is lacking in those regards, but they're what's providing the core value of what pfSense is. And so that's why I've switched to pfSense, even though it's not as pretty. I just feel it's a better choice for the data center or the enterprise, etc. At least at the small level. If you're going bigger, then you might be using MikroTik or ViOS, FortiGate. Anyway, so we're going to search for pfSense CE. That stands for Community Edition Download, because they don't directly link to it on their download page anymore. You can see people complaining about it. Well, there's no longer downloads for the CE edition. There are, but where you find them is in this Reddit post. Where do I download the pfSense CE? Or you already had it bookmarked. And the reason for this is we actually need an offline install. Well, I guess in our case, we don't need an offline install because I am connecting it to the WAN. But oftentimes you need an offline install. So anyway, those who want the direct link, it's right here. So there we go. There's the direct link. And then we want to get the ISO, the bootable ISO, and we want to get the latest version, 2.7.2. So I'm just going to copy this link because I don't actually need to download it. I already have it downloaded. But that's, yeah, there it is. That's what the link looks like. So I could, if I already had another means of getting internet access on here, if I wasn't bootstrapping, then what I would do is I would go into storage. You see there's a little storage icon. So under data center, under the node, then under the storage options, there's local and local ZFS, or it would be called local LVM if you were doing it with LVM. It's the local one. You'll see it has ISO images. If we go to the other one, it doesn't have ISO images. So we go to the one that has ISO images, click, and then we would click download from URL. We'd enter the URL, tell it to query. I'm actually kind of interested to see if it just times out or what happens here. It's not going to be able to do it because we don't have internet access yet, because we're bootstrapping this bad boy. So I am just going to hit refresh because there's nothing for it to do. Oh, okay. Instead, we're going to do upload. And the funny thing about uploads is that you cannot upload a gzip file. You can download a gzip file, but you can't upload one. So, interesting thing to note. So I've already got it downloaded. I'm just going to upload it from my computer because that's easier right now. And so we click upload, and it only takes a few seconds, and we're going to be able to create a VM, and this VM is going to be attached to the management network and the WAN, and it's going to be attached to the guest network as well. So I'll show you how we do that. And then the setup process for it's going to be pretty quick, but it's also going to be pretty flawed. So we're going to have to reboot and potentially just unplug and replug the switch just so that some other stuff gets sorted out faster, potentially faster. I don't know if it's actually going to make it faster, but there's some things that get cached. And yeah, like I said, if things aren't working, don't try to debug it for 3 hours like I did the other night in the video that I've now unlisted. Instead, just reboot each thing in turn and see if it works. And if it doesn't work after that, then go on to the troubleshooting. But sometimes it's literally just the fact that there's some old network information in one of either the switch or the server or pfSense, and it just needs to get wiped. Anyway, I've got the WAN plugged into 601 now. So we're going to go back to the server. We're going to go to create VM, and I'm going to not explain too much about this. I will explain a few things because we're going to explain more about this in another section. So we're going to go to 4001.001. Just because, again, I like my management stuff to start with 4, and I like to have plenty of breathing room. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to call this pfSense 1. We might set it up in failover mode for a demonstration in the future. So I'll call it pfSense 1. Do we want it to start at boot? We will. Do we want a resource pool for it? We do, but I'm not going to create that yet. And as far as tags go, mgmt. See if I can get it to select a red one. Oh, no. Oh, okay. It's deterministic. Interesting. Okay. I didn't notice that last time. All right. We got that. Shutdown order, none of that stuff. We don't need to worry about it. We do want to put it in a resource pool for management, but we can do that later. So I'm not worried about that. As far as OS goes, so we're going to leave it as Linux until after we've gone through this process, and then we're going to change it to other. And the reason that we're going to do that is because they don't have a setup for BSD, and the options for modern BSD for the VM process are the same as they are for Linux, at least with pfSense, OPNSense, I believe TrueNAS, a number of things I've tried. So disk image, you may have multiple storages, so you got to select the storage where your image exists. Otherwise, when you go to the dropdown, you get nothing. If you haven't uploaded anything, you get nothing. So there's our CD. We can hot plug, not the drive, but we can eject the CD while the system is live. So graphics card, we don't need to worry about. Machine type, we don't need to worry about. BIOS, we don't need to worry about. QEMU agent, we're not going to use because it's a third-party package. It's not in the main package repository for pfSense, and I don't want to do it. And then the most performant controller, is going to be VirtIO SCSI single. So over the years, there have been different debates back and forth about which controller to use. This one is now the most performant. It's the one that's likely to be most performant in the future. So you just want to stick with that. As far as disks go, we're going to make sure that we leave this on SCSI. If I'd selected other, this would have gone to IDE or ATA, I don't remember, but we actually don't want that. SCSI controller should be VirtIO SCSI single. We do want to enable discard and SSD emulation. I'm not quite sure why these aren't the defaults in the latest release, because what this is saying, first of all, there's not much harm in doing this other than if you were using rotational drives, you might get a little more fragmentation. But if the backing storage is SSD, you definitely want SSD emulation because you're going to get some performance enhancements. And because there's not the same caveats with using discard, trim, that sort of thing, when you are virtualizing as when you're having to consider real hardware, you should just always select discard. It keeps your thin volumes thin. You may occasionally need to run the fstrim command manually, but anyway, we do want to leave backup. We don't want to skip replication when we set up replication, and we will. CPUs always at least 2. No matter what it is, if you want to have 2, if you only want to have the performance of 1, then just under CPU limit, put 1, so it'll virtualize 2 cores, but it'll only allow the power of 1 to be used. I often just put 1.1 or something like that. Anyway, so with here, we're going to do, the limit is going to be, excuse me, I'll just leave it. And we want these to be full powered because having a faster processor is better for this. Because the 2 servers that I'm going to use in my cluster have a different generation of CPU, I'm going to be selecting the QEMU AMD 64 V3. I think I can use V4, but I need to verify that. I know I can use V3. It's just more modern instruction set. It gives you a few performance advantages, and we don't need to mess with these. So we'll go into memory. Memory, we could actually give it less. We can give it 1024 to start out with, and that's going to be fine. If we want to increase it, we have to reboot, so maybe we want more than that. For what I'm doing for these demonstration purposes, 1024 is going to be just fine, so I'm going to leave it at that. And we don't want ballooning because I don't believe that the BSD is going to be able to take advantage of the ballooning. Maybe it can, but I need to research that a little bit more to understand when to use it. I don't know why it's become the default, but there are some disadvantages to it that I have not been putting it on by default. So I'll need to read up on why that's changed and if I'm missing out on something. So under network, we're only going to start with 1 card. We're actually going to attach 3. We're going to have WAN, LAN, and opt. So that's going to be WAN management network, so internet management network, and then guests. But to start, we're just going to have this be WAN, and so this is going to be 601. That's what I set WAN to. We don't want to double firewall. So we're installing a router/firewall. I don't want to put the firewall on it because I don't want to get confused on this one. I want this one to be fully managed in that way. Model, we want it to be pair virtualized. And then for my sanity, actually, let me go check what I used. I had this written down. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I should have brought this up before we did this. Did I put in here? No, I didn't put that in there, but I do have a screenshot of it. I take tons of screenshots. Saves my bacon. So let me go get that. Boop, boop. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I accidentally hit the wrong button. So I'm just going to grab the screenshot. I forgot what I used, but I want to use the same MAC address I used last time, just because I'm connecting to a cable modem. Obviously, you don't have to worry about that in the data center, but for demonstration purposes, that's what I'm going to do, and it's a pain in the butt to configure sometimes. So if I can reuse the same MAC address, I made it one that was really easy to remember. I just don't remember it. You know. If you know, you know. All right. And it probably won't be a problem because I think it's been over the cache expiration period since I did that, but I just want to look for it and see if it's here. Nope, I don't see it. Okay, well. I'm going to try one more time. Nope. I do not see it. Okay. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do what I think I did, which was put 00400001. I think that that's what I had it as. And we don't need to adjust any of the other settings on the network. And then I do like to give this a once over. So memory ballooning, nope, we don't want that. Cores 2, yeah, that's fine. We could put more there. CPU is V3. CPU is 2. This is the CD drive, which is the pfSense. Memory is a gig. Name is pfSense 1. Network is 601. Node name that we don't change. NIMA we don't need to worry about. On boot, yes, we want it to boot. OS type, it's saying Linux 2.6, L26, Linux 2.6 or higher. SCSI, IO thread, SSD, discard, 32 gigs. You know what? I actually do not want that. We only need 2 gigs, so I'm going to give it 4. All right. And sockets 1, VMID. Okay, and we're not going to start it right now. We're going to finish with the network, then we'll start it up. So next bit here is going to be, we're going to go, oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong network tab. We're going to go into the pfSense. We're going to go into its hardware, and we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to add a random device, because there's some things that it may need to do with cryptography, especially if we enable VPN. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a random device so that it gets real random data. I think you can also generate it from the CPU, but it may be slower. So, and then we need to add 2 more networking devices. So this one is going to be management LAN. So this is going to be VMBR0 401. Uncheck firewall again. MAC address, I'm just going to bump this up by 1. So I had that MAC address copied. You don't have to do this. I just like to do it because the firewall is one of those things that it's just nice to have it more known, just in case you need to debug it or something later. All right. So that's good. And then the final one, we're going to go network device again. We're not going to configure a tag. That's going to leave this as a trunk port. Again, no firewalling. And remember to make sure that it's VirtIO, because once you change it to be a BSD system, it'll default, or an other system, it'll default to E1000, which is a virtualized NIC that's just not as performant. There's no advantage to using it on pfSense or Linux. So, but it is more compatible cross-system. All right, so with that done, now it's time to go into our other options for this. I got the yawns. Now we can change our OS type. Now that's going to change some presets. It's going to be more clearly documented. That's the reason I'm changing it. And it's going to adjust some presets. So now when we create new things, it's going to choose the most compatible rather than the most optimized. But in most cases, like I said, you can choose the same thing as you would choose for Linux. And I don't think that there's anything else here that I'm that interested in. I might want to set protection because our firewall is pretty important. Don't want to be modifying that by accident for sure. All right, task history. Don't think there's anything there. I don't think there was anything else in any of these. We don't have our cluster set up yet, so we're not going to do replication. And we want to get our network set up before we set up our cluster. So that's part of this. Firewall, the options, we just want to keep the firewall off on this one. That's fine. And then, yeah, then we're good to go. So we'll go ahead and we'll boot this up and we'll get it configured. I've got my WAN plugged in. We know that the network card here is on network 601, which we don't know what that network is. We just have the identifier for it. So it's going to keep those networks separate. And that is going to be able to go through the trunk port as well, but we're not going to use that. But anyway, Blocky. Yeah, so now I think we're good to go in terms of just booting this thing up. So let me double click on it. I like to double click on it because then it gives me this window, which is a lot easier to work with. I'm going to go ahead and click settings on that. And then I'm going to change the scaling mode to local scaling. And that way I can then make this the size that I want. And it'll resize the way I tell it to rather than by some predefined value. I'm going to go ahead and click Start Guest. And I'm going to watch down here. Oh, I also need, hold on. I hit spacebar so it doesn't continue booting so we can go over the options. I also don't want it to auto resize because that's really annoying. So let me undo that. If there were a problem getting this set up, oh, and I need to set scaling mode again. There we go. So if you have auto resize and local scaling, when it auto resizes, it will turn off local scaling. So have to do those two together. All right. Now, there's nothing that we need to do here. We're going to accept the default and we're going to just boot up. But I just wanted to stop it so you could see it because it's really frustrating when something goes by and you don't have a chance to read it. At least for me. Okay, a weird thing's going to happen. This is printing console messages and messages for the user. What's going to happen is it's going to get stuck in a place where it looks like we're waiting for something to happen, but actually there's a prompt and then a console message comes out first. That may or may not happen for you. It just depends on timings of things. This is the copyright and distribution notice. We'll accept it. Oh, sorry, I've got the yawns. Oh, it is a little later than I thought. And we, install, rescue, or recover with a config. We're just going to install. We could recover from a config later if we want to. Now, we're already using ZFS, and you may remember I said ZFS on ZFS is not good. It increases the number of writes that are happening. It causes the transaction sync to be, well, transaction sync should stay the same. It causes the time sync to go off. And I don't think that there's any risk of data loss. I think it just causes contention. Let me think about that for a second. Because that's in RAM, that's in RAM. This flushes. No, it can lead to data loss. Because this can flush its RAM to disk, and it's actually just going to be flushing to RAM underneath. It may not lead to data loss because that may be a transactional sync, but I don't know that it's a transactional sync when it does that flush. It seems like it should be, but I don't know for certain. So that's a little ambiguous. I don't know. I don't have any strong reason to suspect there could be data loss. I just believe it's contention with the different timers and sync processes going between two ZFSs. So in this case, we're going to use UFS. And with UFS, we're getting a lot of the benefit of ZFS because ZFS is under the hood. So all the UFS blocks that get written are going to be ZFS copy on write under the hood. So we're getting that already. So that's why we're going to choose UFS. All right. And we want to use the entire disk. Yes, we do. And I like to use GPT. I don't have any particular reason for it. It's not necessary. And we want to get rid of swap because we don't want swap on top of ZFS to just be written for no reason. We've got plenty of RAM. So we don't need swap, so I like to get rid of it. So I'm going to select delete, which means that we also need to get rid of this. This is called FreeBSD UFS. It's mounted at /, so that's our rootfs. Now we need to create our FreeBSD UFS. Our mount point needs to be /, and I like to give it the label rootfs just because traditionally that's something I'm familiar with. In terms of options, I don't think there's any options that we need. Oh, we should enable trim, actually. I forgot about that. I'm glad I went and double checked. So we do want to enable trim. This says turn off for SSDs. Okay. Enable soft updates. So for whatever reason, it didn't detect that this was an SSD. Okay. Good to know that we need to go into that option and update it so that it is more performant, and I imagine that may affect reliability as well. So that's good. We're going to finish it and commit it. And this isn't going to take very long at all. This is going to be a very quick process. Boop, 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 boop. How is this so fast? Well, it's because our underlying file system is ZFS. And so that was actually just a copy into RAM. At some point, it's going to write it to disk. But right now, that's just a copy into RAM. All right. And you might think, a copy into RAM, that's no good. Couldn't that lead to data loss? And the answer is, whenever you have a catastrophic failure that leads to the computer turning off without shutting down cleanly, you're going to experience some amount of data loss. But the thing that's nice about ZFS is that it's transacting in such a way that you're guaranteed to have a full change or not. So in the event of something catastrophic, yeah, you'll lose the data that wasn't committed, but the data that's there will be fully committed. So it would be the same as if the power failure happened 5 seconds earlier, let's say. And if you're doing transactional writes, then you don't have to worry about that, because the transactional sync writes, like what would happen with a database, for example, are going to be flushing to disk in the ZIL, the sync log. So anyway, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Do VLANs need to be set up first? If it's only for optional interfaces, say no here and use the web configurator later. But look down here, ignoring link event. So it looks like it's just hung, it's frozen. It's not. We just need to hit in and enter. Okay, what is going to be the WAN interface? That is going to be VTnet0. That's the first one that we set up, was WAN. Enter the LAN interface. Okay, that's going to be VTnet1. Enter the optional interface. That's going to be VTnet2. All right, is this correct? Yes, it is. WAN VNet1 or VNet0, LAN VNet1, opt VNet2. Yes, that's correct. All right, so if we get lucky, oh, cool. Yep. So it actually communicated with the modem and was able to get an IP address. So that's lucky for us. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is get our management network LAN. First we need to finish configuring our WAN. Then we want to set up our management network. Then we're going to run system updates to make sure that we're actually getting internet on our server. Then after that, we'll set up one guest network and we'll test a guest. And then that will be the end of this portion here. Okay, so first thing out of these options is going to be we did assign the interfaces. And now, oh, this is interesting. I'm not sure how that tracks, because that's a 2001 and this is a 2601. I wonder, does it assign a different address? I have to look into that. Anyway, so set interface IP address. That is something that we want to do with the LAN. So I'm going to do that for IPv4 and let it get it automatically for IPv6. So yes, we want to set that for what do we want to configure? Number 2 is LAN. Do we want to get the LAN interface via DHCP? No, we don't. Enter the new LAN address. So this is going to be 17.18. Whoops. It's doing the Dvorak QWERTY thing on me. Sorry, 172.1.8.0. And this one is going to be the router, so it's going to go down at 1. And if we had another router, we'd call it 2 or 3. If we had a virtual router, this might be 2 and the other one might be 3, and the virtual IP would be 1. Okay. What's the net mask? 24 is just fine. And for a WAN, so if there is a gateway, give it the gateway address. Otherwise, enter for none. So we're going to enter for none. Do I want to configure the interface via DHCP 6 for this one? I don't know. Sure. Maybe? No, I'm going to pick no because I don't know. Do you want to enable the DHCP server? We do. Enter the start address, so that'd be 172.1.8.0.101 and 172.18, whoops, .18.0. I'm imagining that we're going to have very, very few DHCP devices on the network. So let's go way bigger than I think we need to. I'll go to 121. Do you want to revert to HTTP? No, we don't. So it'll be HTTPS. And then it's telling us, okay, this is where you can go to configure it. Let's find out if that's true. It may or may not be. And then it says reset web configurator password. Is there another reset password? I think we're probably going to be good. So let's go over here. And I just did image to text recognition. So let's make sure this is right, so I don't just get frustrated. That looks good. All right, so now we're going to log in with admin, and the password is going to be pfSense. And then we're going to be taken through the wizard, which is going to have some of the same steps we already did, except they're going to be pre-filled, so we don't have to fill them out. So we'll go next. We'll go next. That's just license and information. Hostname, it's calling itself pfSense. I'm going to rename it to pfSense 1 because that's what we called it in the VM. The domain, it doesn't want us to use .local, but it's happy for us to use .lam. But actually, we can just call this what it is. It's lab2.therootcompany.com. And I could call it M for management. That would be fine. But that's not really necessary because this is going to be a bunch of different devices. So I'll leave it at that for now. Primary DNS server, we're not going to worry about that because that's going to come from the WAN. And we have that right here, allow DNS servers to be overridden. So we're going to do that. Time server, we're just going to leave that as the default, but we are going to change the time zone because it turns out to be really, really helpful to be able to view the logs in your local time zone. For a while, I was a straight up UTC guy, but thank goodness I grew out of it. I realized the immaturity of my ways. So let's see where, oh, I'm all the way up at the top here. America, Denver, where are we at, baby? America. Wow. If there was ever something that needed to be a combo box, it was this list right here. And we do have combo boxes in HTML now, so they could make it a combo box without having to get fancy and, you know, get web developers involved. All right. Select type for the WAN interface, DHCP, that's correct. We don't need to change any of that. DHCP hostname, I don't care to configure that. We don't need PPOE, we don't need PP2P. We are going to block bogon private and bogon networks. So this means we're going to block networks that look like it's not possible for them to come from the internet. We would uncheck these if we were using our WAN and say, for example, in a home lab setting, if the WAN was going to be 10.x.x.x or 172.x.x or whatever, any of that, we would want to uncheck this box. And if we were on a CGNAT, I'm not sure if we would need to uncheck either of these or not. I think CGNAT is not part of this. So, which if you're on a CGNAT, it's, I don't remember what the range is. I still haven't memorized that one. Okay. So LAN IP address, yes, that's all good. All right, admin password. So I'm going to change this to my nice password. All right. Reload is now in progress. Wizard will redirect to the next step once it's complete. Do you want to check for updates? Sure, we can check for updates. I don't think it has any. I don't really want to do updates right now, but we'll check for them. That's fine. It looks like maybe it does have some updates. Oh, it says it's up to date. All right, update settings, current stable, table dashboard check to auto update. Nope, we're good there. Okay, so now we get to the good part, almost. So first, there was something in advance. I don't remember what it was, but there's something in advance I think we needed to change. Maybe it was just SSH. Maybe I just wanted to enable SSH. So we enable SSH. We're going to have password or public key. We could do login protection to restrict addresses they're allowed to log in. In this case, we're not exposing this in a way that I'm worried about that. Only the LAN is able to log in. Remember that. You can't log in from the WAN. You can't log in from the guest networks unless you specifically enable that elsewhere. So we're going to do that. So I'm enabling SSH. Let me see, do I have my terminal up here? So I'm just going to log in. We're going to do 172.18.0.1. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to go into the shell. And what I want to do here is go into SSH. Oh, did they put it in a different place? Let me see. Enable secure shell. I think we did hit click save on that. That's why it loaded at the top. Yes. All right. Password or public key. And in this case, I don't remember. Wait, if I did public key. Let me just go ahead and make .ssh. We're going to chmod 0700 on that. And then I'm going to touch .ssh authorized keys. And then we also need to set the permissions on this to be 6. Like that. And so then I should be able to just drop in. I opened up a new terminal. I did that real fast. But I'm going to run SSH pub key and grab my public key. And I opened up another terminal again. I'm just going to fetch all my public keys, which I guess there's only 2 of them right now. Oh, whoops, I did not want to select that whole thing. I just want to select these 2. All right. So I undid and I pasted again. Okay. Boom. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to log out and then I'm going to log back in. But we shouldn't need a password this time. Okay, good. log back in. In this particular case, I might want to do both password and public key are required. For right now, I'm going to choose public key only because my public key is password protected. So we'll go ahead and set that up. And then I will check and make sure that I haven't locked myself out of SSH. All right. So we need to do... We're not locked out. So that's good. And let's see. Was there anything else in here? I don't think there was anything else under advanced that we needed to do. I think it's just I wanted to set up SSH. That's not necessary. Should probably cut that out. It is, well, it's useful. Anyway, so the next thing we need to do is go to interfaces, and we can check assignments. We want to make sure that the assignments are correct. VNet 0, VNet 1, opt 1. And we don't need to do the VLANs yet because these virtualized interfaces already have the VLANs under the hood. Oh, look, I forgot to set that MAC address. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go do that right now. I'm going to go back to the server. I'm going to go data center node, pfSense, select pfSense, select hardware. I'm going to go to the previous network device. I'm going to grab its MAC, copy it, and then I'm going to go to the next one, and then just paste it over top, and then change it to a 3. So there we go. All right, cool. Before I do anything with it, I want its MAC address to be right. I'm just going to refresh here and see. Okay, that updated right away. So there we go with that. So we should be good there. We don't need anything in particular. Actually, at this point, I think that we're good for internet access. So let me go over here, back to the server, and I'm just gonna see, let's see, management network's all set up. We've set the router. I'm just gonna go into the console. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. Let me go back up. I want to be on the node, at the node level. It's the shell. It's called shell here. It's called console there. I'm not sure what they mean by that difference. But let's ping example.com. Okay. No example.com yet. So, oh, you know what? We probably don't have things enabled yet. So let me go. I'm just going to click through a few of these real quick. That interface groups. We need to go to WAN. WAN is enabled. All of these options we've already set. That's good. So nothing to concern ourselves with there. LAN. LAN is enabled. Okay. So that's good. In terms of services, we should have a DHCP server already set up. So let me click on that and take a look. This has reached end of life. Change it to the other backend. Okay. I think I will go ahead and do that right now before I set any settings. So let's go ahead and switch it over. It says this is deprecated. It's keeping it around because that's what people are used to. It's still the default because that's what people are used to, but we're going to switch it over to the one that is the one that we're supposed to use now. I'm just looking through, see if there's any of these that I want to check. I don't think so. Boom. All right, so that's saved and applied. In a lot of cases in pfSense, you have to save and then apply as well. All right. So let's go back up to interfaces. We're going to go back to LAN, and we're going to just check and make sure that everything looks right. Static is the way it's configured. Its address for itself and the pfSense is the router address. We're not going to block private networks, of course, because that's the only way we can access this thing. And upstream gateway, we don't need to worry about that. But we do need to add some firewall rules so this thing will be able to get out to the internet. So let's go to firewall and rules. And right now, the WAN doesn't have any rules, so everything's just going to fail. So what we need to do is add a rule that everything can have outbound access. That might have been here. No, it's not there. Let me check under the LAN. Okay. So let's go to the WAN. We're going to add a firewall rule that allows things to access the internet. So the action is going to be pass. The interface is going to be WAN. Address family is going to be IPv6. It's going to be all of it. That's what I meant to say. Protocol is any. Source can be any. Destination is see. Oh, I forgot what we're going to do here. So we want to allow all traffic out. Okay, let me take a step back. I may have done this in haste. All incoming connections will be blocked. Outgoing connections are already allowed. Okay, we don't need to worry about that. Floating. No rules are defined. That's fine. LAN. Things on the LAN are allowed to talk to each other. All destinations. Everything's good. And we've got the anti-lockout rule. So that's all good. So with that, let me go ahead and check on this again. So I'm going back over to our server. I'm going to go back to network. I'm just double checking here. I know we're on the same network. We know we've got a gateway. What we may not have though is resolution. So, yes, we don't have resolution. So I'm going back to pfSense. We're going back to services. And what we need to set up is a DNS resolver. So we're going to enable DNS resolver. We can go ahead and allow DNS over TLS. That's fine. We don't want to change anything about it. That should all be good. So let's set that. And I don't think there was anything under advanced settings or access list, but I'm just going to take a quick look to see. Yeah, all this looks fine. All right. And this looks fine. So the one thing, I'm going to go back to the Proxmox node. We're going to go back to the shell. And then we're going to look at etcresolve.conf. Okay, it looks like that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and ping 172.18.0.1. That's good. And we're going to ping something out on the internet. We can pick 1.1.1.1. Okay, that's good. So now we can try pinging example.com again. And it's working. Okay, great. So we now have internet access. That's excellent. So we're mostly there. There's a few more things we need to configure, but we're mostly there. So now that we have internet access, we can go to the node level. We can go to system. Oh, no, under system is updates and repositories. We're going to disable the enterprise repository for now. We'll enter in a license key later. But well, actually, no. If we're going to enter in a license key, we enter in a license key at this point. So we don't have a valid subscription. That's fine. So we're going to use the no subscription repository. And then we're going to add again. And then for Ceph, we're also going to add the no subscription for Quincy. Okay, and actually, I think we would use Reef. We're going to use Reef no subscription because we're setting this up new. We're actually not going to use Ceph, but that's what we would do if we're going to use Ceph. This is only going to be a 2-node cluster. Okay, so that's good. So we can click reload, and we can go to updates, and we can click refresh. And it's going to go grab a bunch of updates. Well, it's not grabbing the updates themselves. It's grabbing the lists of updates when we hit refresh. And then we click upgrade. It's going to do It's going to do all the big updates. I don't want to click upgrade yet. What I want to do is create our first container and our first guest network and our first container. So now that we've got internet access, and if it weren't for the fact that I want to get to the end of this and get to bed, I would. But we're going to go to data center. We're going to go to SDN, software defined networking. And we're going to create our first guest network. So I'm going to go into a zone. Zone is the layer at which permissions happen. So if I have a customer that I want to be able to manage VMs on here, so my customer could be the finance department or could be a client, whatever. I want to give them a zone that they're in control of that network. I could even give them an API key to do things in that network. So we've got the zone there. We're going to go ahead and go to add VLAN. So we're going to create a VLAN for this customer. The VLAN ID, I'm going to call it guest one zone. Well, I'm just going to call it guest 1Z for zone. What bridge is it's going to use? It's going to use a VMBR0. Now this is across the cluster. We're at the data center layer. We're defining this across the cluster so we don't have to go and set it up on each individual node. So the management network, we set up on the individual nodes because we may be moving that to just the VMBR shortly. I think that's why we did that. I may not. I have to double check on that. Anyway, the things that we want guests to be able to use that need to be permissioned, that are not just at the admin level, those things we're going to set up as software-defined networks. So we're going to create a VLAN. It's going to be VMBR0, which is our Linux bridge that all the guests are going to have everything go through. And we're going to have nothing else in here. This is all good for now. That's the permission layer. Now we're going to set up the actual network. We can actually have more than one if I remember correctly, we can have more than one VNet in there. So we select yes. Okay. So this I'm going to call guest one net. The alias. This is not my best work because we probably want to call it something what it is. Fin one net, imp one net, employee, imp, fin, finance, whatever. But we're just going to call it guest one net for now. And then the zone is guest one zone. So we can have more than one VLAN in a zone because the zone is the permission structure. The actual software-defined network is the VNet. So for this, we're going to define 1001. And we don't need to isolate ports, and we don't want to make it VLAN aware because that would give them access to lots of things. And then under options, I don't think there was anything that we need to do for this. If we had IPAM and DNS set up, we would set that up there. And then the VNet firewall. The firewall we will want to turn on. Let's see. Do we need to turn that on at this layer? We have rules. Yeah, so this would be rules specifically for this network. Right now, I don't have anything to add to that. But we will turn on the firewall for this guest, which means that it won't. We would have to enable access to it individually. All right, so with that out of the way, side note, another thing that we'll cover later is setting up Acme so that we have Let's Encrypt TLS certificates, so we got real certificates. We're just not going to do that right now because we need to get through this process all the full way All right, so now we've got that set up, 1001. Now we go back to our node, create container. Oh, just 1 second. We can't create a container yet. We haven't downloaded any. So I'm going to go to local. I'm going to go to CT templates, container templates, download from here, templates. I'm going to select templates. And we can see here, I like to sort by package name. There's a bunch of nice packages to choose from, including, well, there would be some turnkey packages in here as well, except that we haven't done the update to, if we ran the update, we would see more stuff in here. That's what I'm saying. So I'm going to pick 2404 Ubuntu, pretty generic, easy to work with thing. And that shouldn't take more than just a moment to download. It's 135 megabytes. I think it'd already be done by now. I don't know what's taking so long. It's the middle of the night. Certainly nobody else is using the network. Come on. Maybe it's on the Proxmox end. Anyway, we can just let that download in the background. Since that's taking a minute, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to check and make sure that we definitely still have internet connectivity because we just updated packages. But I'll go ahead and ping example.com. Okay, yeah, that's working. I'm going to go ahead and open this back up from the logs. Okay, it's going really slow. Who knows why? It might be on Proxmox's end. They might be experiencing, for whatever reason, high volume right now. Okay, now it's sped right up. So it took forever to get that first megabyte, and then boom, it was done. All right, great. So we've got that. I'll go ahead and click, let me get out of here, go back to summary. So we're at the node level. I'm going to click create container. And this one is going to be 1001 because that's the ID that I'm using to represent the guest. And then 001 because it's the first one. And I'm just going to call this guest 1. Maybe I'll call it Ubu guest 1. No, I'll just call it guest 1. Guest 1-1. There we go. That's it. We do not need nesting, container nesting in this, so I'm just going to turn that off just because we don't need it. As far as password goes, I'm going to use a stupid password because we're not actually going to use it. Okay. And then SSH keys, sure, I'll copy those in. Why not? SSH, whoops, no. What am I doing? Perl. No. There we go. So it's important to note that when you add SSH keys to these things, it doesn't support the full SSH file format. You can't have empty spaces or comments, unfortunately. So I have to get rid of those. Now that should work just fine, though. I'm not going to give it a tag. I would put it in a resource pool for guest 1, but I haven't created resource pools yet, and we're going to cover permissions later. So under the template here, now you'll notice that there's not the ISO for this because we're doing a container. There's just the Ubuntu tarball. So we're going to use the Ubuntu tarball. And then as far as disks go, again, this can be really small. I'm going to put it down at 1 gigabyte. Well, 2. I'll leave it at 2 gigabytes. Mount options, I like to have discard, lazy A time, no A time. Those are just performance things. You can't select no SUID for a system. Well, you can, but it's going to cause you undue problems on something where you have root privileges and may use root privileges. We're not going to skip replication. We already chose the size. All right, CPU, again, I always do 2, but in this case, I'm just going to put the limit at 1. And then as far as memory goes, no swap. Rarely use swap. So swap should be 0. Only use, my opinion is only use swap if you know why you need it. And you probably don't. All right, now we're into the network config. We get to choose DHCP. DHCP. We're going to let it do, oh, and then we need, oops, I forgot to click apply settings in the network settings. So we're going to go back and do that in just a moment. For now, I'm going to put this on VLAN tag 1, just so that we remember that, so that if we don't come back and change it, that the access is limited. It's not getting access to the management network. In fact, I'll put it as VLAN access 2, just so we don't use an accidental default either, because 1 is the default. Use host settings, that should be fine. Confirm. Start after created, we're not going to do because we forgot something. I forgot to click apply in the software defined network step. So I did click create. Going through, it's doing its thing. Okay, it's done. It's created it. It's ready to start it. I'm going to go back to the data center layer. I'm going to go back down to SDN, and I'm going to click the apply button. Apply pending changes. Now, if we have any major network problems after this, then we will just restart. I don't think that we will, but there are times, like I said, if you're doing a bunch of different changes and you haven't rebooted, if you have too many changes stacked, there could be a conflict where something doesn't initialize properly. Try reboot before doing too much deep debugging, or just restarting the network. System control restart networking. That's the command. All right, so we'll go back up here. We'll go to network, and we will double click on it to open it up. And we're going to select now GuestNet. And we don't need a VLAN tag on that. It's not VLAN aware anyway. We're going to leave firewall on. In fact, we are going to set some firewall rules while we're here. Now may be the time to just turn on all the firewall stuff. Firewall still disabled at data center level. Okay, so we're going to need to go fix that. First, while we're here though, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, actually, I think we do want to go to the data center level because there's some security groups that I'll want to be able to insert. So let's go up to the data center level. Let's go down to firewall, and let's go to security groups. So we'll create a security group, which is just a set of rules. I'm going to call this web dev. And I'm going to select it, and we're going to add rules that web developers need. So we're going to allow things in. We're going to enable it. I'm going to use the macro of SSH. That's one that we always need. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to enable it. I'm going to add HTTP. And there we go. I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to enable it. I'm going to add HTTPS. And I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to enable it. And this one, I'm going to select protocol UDP. And the destination port is going to be 443. So this is for HTTP 3. So I'll just put the comment here, HTTP/3. And we can see that there. And I think that's all that we need for incoming connections. I'm also going to create another group called PMX for Proxmox. Well, I guess I should call it PVE, but I don't. Well, yeah. PVE admin, maybe. Yeah, I guess PVE admin. We'll go with that. We'll call it PVE admin. And the PVE admin, we're going to allow the destination port of 8006. And that's going to be, I wonder if they have it in here. 8006, no. Prox, no. Web, nope. Okay. The protocol is going to be TCP. I wonder, can we do TCP and UDP in here? I think we have to add them separately. That makes sense though. I don't see them upgrading HTTP 3 in the immediate future, so we can just leave it as that. And then the source, we could select, let's see, do we have the ability to select the management network? It does not look like we do. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and set that. We also want, same here, enable SSH. We want to accept that. So these, we're just creating WebDev is allowing HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, UDP. And PVAdmin is allowing SSH and port 8006 so that we can get into there. So we want to create our anti-lockout groups, especially essentially is what that is. Okay, so with that, there's one other thing I think we forgot to do. Oh, we're going to take a step back and go to VNet real quick. So under VNets, on our guest one network, we have the opportunity to create subnets. We want to do that. So I'm going to create the subnet of 10.1. You could think of it as 0.1. So keeping in line with that 10.0.0/16. Is that what I want? Yeah. So we're going to give away a full 16 to this guest network. And what is the gateway going to be? It's going to be this. DHCP ranges, we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about SNAT. We could make this 1001.g.lab2.therootcompany.com. There we go. So this is partially for documentation purposes, but it helps as far as SDN knowing which VLANs are associated with which networks. So we're going to do this both here in SDN and in the firewall. So there we go. So I'm going to go back up to SDN and I'm going to click apply here. Applying this changes. We'll also apply pending network changes, local network changes. Yes, I want to do it. I don't think we're going to have any problem with that. Okay. So that looks like that completed from what I see down here. So now we'll go back to the guest again. We're going to go to network again. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we are going to go to network again. Double click on this. Now we have guest net in here and we already had the network defined. Okay, so that was set right. So we need to turn the firewall on at the node layer. So we're going to go node, and then we're going to go down to firewall. We need to first insert a security group, and it's going to be pvEadmin, and we're going to enable it, and it's going to be on interface VMBR0. So if we had, oh, sorry, that's going to be on an interface MGMT. Let me edit that. MGMT. But I also want to add it on MBR0. Yeah. Oops. So we're going to do insert security group and VMBR0 because we may swappy doodle those in the future. So that's there. I'm going to go back to the guest. Oh, we're going to options. Firewall is enabled. Okay, good. So we're going to go back to the guest, and I don't think that we actually added the firewall rule, but we need to do that. So we're going to insert security group. We're going to select WebDev, and we're going to enable it. So that way we can SSH in and get HTTP access. All right. Now, the final thing we want to do here, and hopefully not mess everything up, is go to the data center layer, and then we're going to turn on the firewall at the data center layer. And let's see, insert security group. I don't think we need to worry about that. Once we get the cluster set up, we're probably going to have to make sure, it's going to be weird, because we're going to have to make sure that the node, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I suppose. So we should just be able to go here and enable the firewall. And then this should take place immediately. So now, if I ping our node, it should just get dropped. And indeed, it does. Request timeout. So we may also want to add back ping into that. So let's go back into our security group for the firewall. Let's select PVE admin, and let's add enable macro ping ICMP echo request. So we'll enable that. That should take place immediately, and now we get ping. And then same thing with web dev. We want to have ping there. So protocol, oh, whoops, not protocol, macro ping. There we go. And so now we'll be able to ping the guests. So we're almost done. We're getting to the point where we can boot up this guest, and it's, well, we can go ahead and boot it up, as we can. What's going to happen, though, if we boot it up, is it's not going to have network access, because we don't actually have the guest net defined on the pfSense. That's going to be the router. So we'll go back to the pfSense. We're going to go to interfaces and assignments, and we don't have a guest network yet. So we're going to go into VLANs. We're going to add, and then we're going to select the VLAN tag of 1001, because that's what I like to do for my first guest network, and then 1002, 1003, so on. Our parent interface needs to be opt. That's our trunk port. And the VLAN priority on this can be, doesn't matter. We'll just leave it as the default. And the description is going to be guest 1. Okay. Now we go back over to interface assignment. And this is where we can select this network and add it. Then once we've done that, we can click on it. Sorry, because, oh no, whoops. Let me go back. So now it's called opt2. We can click on it. We can rename it to guest 1. We want to enable it, and then we want to set the IPv4 configuration for it. So we're going to say it's DHCP. The configuration for this DHCP6. We don't need any advanced configurations, I don't believe. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm doing the wrong thing here. I'm actually doing the wrong thing. Configuration should be static. And on this one, track interface, I believe, is what we need to select. I could be wrong about that. We might just turn that off for now. We'll just turn that off for now. Okay. So here, it's going to be 10.1.0.1. By the way, if you want to send fan mail, wait, where did it go? Bravo. Oh, wait, that's not the complete address. It's missing the unit number. 1745, mailbag. Okay, block. We don't need to block. That wouldn't help us. So we click save here. And we're going to need to adjust our DHCP server as well. So we have to have the interface enabled. That's really important. And then we can go over to DHCP server in just a moment here. So we'll go over to services, DHCP server. It's got the right backend. It's enabled on LAN. Oh, it's not enabled on op1. So let's go back here again to guest 1. We did not apply changes, so we have to click apply changes. All right. Changes are applying. Now we go over to services. We go over to DHCP server, and let's refresh. All right, let me take another look over here. Guest 1, interface is enabled. This might be one of those cases I was talking about where it's easier to just restart. Okay, guest 1, is that named the right thing? That's named the right thing. Interface is enabled. Assignments made. DHCP server. We should be seeing it appear right here next to it. So, is there anything else that we needed to do? Advanced. I don't think we need to do anything there. Networking. No, we don't need to do anything there. I'm just going to disable and re-enable. Oh, thanks for pointing that out. Thanks for pointing that out, Standard Air. Yes, so for some reason it defaults to /32. We need to fix that. Thanks for pointing that out. That would have tripped me up. We want this to be a /16 because /32 is not actually workable. Okay. So I'm going to disable this, apply changes. Okay, I'm going to disable it and save it. Then I'm going to apply changes. Then I'm going to enable it and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to apply changes. And then we should see it's listed here in assignments. That's correct. We go here, we see it's enabled. That's correct. Now we should see the option for it under DHCP server. Okay. So this is the one things I was talking about where sometimes you be scratching your head and what's really happened is it's just lagging on something that's updating and it didn't show up in the UI right away. Unclick it, reclick it, or restart. I spent so many hours the other night chasing my tail on things that were not actually a problem. We do want to enable DHCP. And we're going to do same thing, 10.1.0.101 to 199. Well, we could just take it all the way to 200, I suppose, but I like to leave it at 199 because reasons. I don't know why. DNS server, this is going to get picked up automatically. So this is what's going to get sent out. But we've got the resolver enabled, so that should get picked up automatically. We've got the gateway. We got the domain name. We can make this 1001.g.lab2.therootcompany.com. Search domain. I don't think we need to worry about that. MAC address control. We don't need to worry about that. We could get fancy with this, but I don't want to yet. So I saved it. So I didn't show that. I just did it, but I saved it. And I'm going to click apply settings. So give it 5 seconds or so to apply. And then I want to make sure that we didn't have any issues there with the DNS resolver and we don't have to also select it for this network. General settings, enable it. It's going to run locally. Okay, we're good there. We don't have any problems with that. So at this point, I think we're pretty much done. Once this is working, we're going to download. So under diagnostics right here, we can download the XML file. Where is it at? Backup and restore. So backup area. I don't want to back up package information. I don't want to back up RRD. I don't want to include extra backup data like the current leases. I don't want to back up the SSH keys. I would just want to download this XML file. So once we've done this, then we can just write a program. Like once we've got the first couple things set up, we can just write a program to template out the config file and then post the config file back and handle adding new guest networks that way. So that's what I'd like to get towards. And that's the way we have it on our BNNA hosting. Anyway, so here we're at. We're here, and if all went well, we're going to be able to double click this and get into it. There's one other thing that I wanted to do actually. So let me go back here. No, sorry. We'll do that last. We'll do that last. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click on this guest here. I'm going to close out this window for pfSense. I don't think we need it right now. And we need to start this guest. So I don't have the option to start it here because it's a different system. We have to click the start button. And we also we need to go into options. The containers don't have an option for start at boot in the create container menu. So you have to click that in here. Let me see if there's anything else that we wanted to add. Generally speaking, stay away from features unless you know the security ramifications, because all of these have security ramifications. Nesting, maybe not as much, but the other ones do. Was there anything else that we want to do here? We got DNS. It's going to use host settings, which is fine. Resources. Yeah, I think we're good with everything else. Okay. So this should have booted up. It didn't. I'm just going to close that out and then double click on it again and see. Let me just hit enter. Oh, okay. So I just couldn't see that it was there. So I should be able to log in. I think that I am just logging in as root. Okay, I must have typoed that. New password. I haven't gotten used to it yet. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Did I hit the wrong one? I don't know what's going on there. I might have to reset the password on this. Okay. Options. Do we have the ability to reset the password? Root disk, console. Okay, we're just going to recreate this thing, I think, because I don't. Okay, I used the dumb password. I don't know why I didn't remember that. So we should be able to ping at this point. Oh, actually, okay, this will be fun. So 172.1, no. What's our IP address here? Did we get an IP address? We got an IP address assigned, so that's cool. So we should be able to ping ourselves. Yes, of course we can. Can we ping the router? We can't ping the router. All right. And can we ping the management network? 172.18.0.1. Nope, not the router. How about the host node? Nope, can't ping the host node. So this is good. This is what we want. But we need to do a little more configuration over in pfSense. So I'm going over there. We need to go to Firewall Rules, and we have some nice rules for the LAN. We don't have those rules for the guest network. So we're going to copy the LAN rules. Do a little copy here. This is just saying allow it to go to anything. So we're going to copy the LAN rules, and we're going to copy them over to guest 1. And we're going to enable address conversion. So if it was something specific to the LAN, it's going to become something specific to the guest 1. All right. So we're going to apply that. And now let's see what happens. All right. So we go to ping. Uh-oh. Now we can reach the host network. That's not good. And if we go to ping, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, I'm totally in the wrong place anyway. Sorry. Let's see here. So now we can ping the guest, or I mean the host, which is actually not something we want. We can ping the router at all interfaces, which is great, but we need to restrict this so that the guests can't talk to each other or the host. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go over to loading. We're going to add a rule, and the rule is going to be reject. And we're going to reject It can actually be any interface. That's fine. Apply the action immediately on match. That's what we want. And the direction is going to be, yeah, I guess any is fine. Both families, any protocol. So if the source is the network 10.0.0.0/8, oh, sorry, if the destination, no, is it the source or is it the destination? Let me think about this real quick. I'm gonna look at the other one I set up just because it's getting late and my brain is slowing down a bit. So I just want to look at the actual configuration and see what's it, rules floating. Okay. So we are blocking where the source is this network and the destination is that. Okay, right. So where the source is this network and the destination is this network, we're actually going to block it. And that might seem weird because, wait a minute, don't we want the guests to be able to talk to each other? We do. But when they're on the virtual bridge, they can talk to each other. There would be no need for them to go out to the router. If they need to go out to the router, no, we don't want them to be able to talk to each other. And it kind of would be interesting to log packets that are handled by this rule to see, is there a particular guest that's trying to access other guests? So this is block enter guest traffic. Okay. Save. Oh, whoopsie daisies. We'll just use IPv4 for now. All right, let me just check that one more time. I thought I saw something I didn't recognize. No, it's good. All right. So now, if I go back here, we won't be able to see anything because I don't have two guests up on different networks. I guess we'd need to put two guests up on different networks to be able to show this. But now we've got a firewall rule where guests are not going to be able to talk to each other on different networks. They'll be able to talk to each other on the same network because they won't go to the router. Anything that goes to the router is trying to cross networks. Anything that doesn't go to the router, not trying to cross networks. So it's all fine. Okay. So, and some of these rules we might actually be able to put in Proxmox, and that would be a little bit nicer. So I have to think on that as well. But we're going to put them in here for now. We also want to block. So we're going to take a copy of this rule. So we're going to do actually, here's how we can demonstrate this. Let's demonstrate it real quick. So now I was just able to ping the router, and now is that rule not applied? Destination. Did we not apply it? Oh, we did not apply it. So let's go ahead and apply it. So we can apply it because we're not doing anything to the management network, so I didn't have to, double check. But okay, now I can't ping the router anymore. Can I still ping example.com? Should be able to. Oh. I think there's another thing that I have to enable. Because if we look at etcresolve.conf. Okay, that's not a problem. 172.18.0.1. Let's see, ping 172.18.0.1. Okay, we can still go through there. I'm not sure what's happening there. That might be one of those things where we just need to reboot some stuff. Let me go ahead and reboot this. And let me make sure that we still can get access to the internet at the node level. So I'm going to go back to the node level. I'm going to go back to shell. Just make sure pingingexample.com still works. Okay, so pingingexample.com still works there. So what may be happening is we may not have something enabled for the guest network. I'll have to go back and check on that. But, okay, so let's go back to the console here. So root. And let's see what happens if we ping that. That's good. We ping example.com, no bueno. So I think if we change etcresolve.conf, let's just try this real quick. I think if we change it to 10.1.0.1, I think it's going to work. Okay, no. Name server 10.0.0.1. Temporary failure, name resolution. Okay. And then IPA, let's make sure our IP address is still the same. And we can still ping 10.1.0.1. No, we can't. Okay. All right. Okay. I know why that's happening, at least. The reason that that's happening, and probably why we were having a problem overall. Can you trace rights on the outside? One of examples. Can you ping that IP? I think that we will be able to ping the IP. Yes. Yeah. I'd actually set this up to point this out, and then forgot that I'd set it up to point it out. So we are not allowing it to use the firewall for DNS. So what we need to do here is we need to have that allowed. So we need to always allow access to the firewall. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to say that essentially any interface, we're going to let it ping the firewall is what we're going to do. So let's see, address family protocol. We're going to choose ICMP, and we're going to choose echo request. That's what ping is. And then that is going to work for any source, and the destination is this firewall. All right, so ping firewall. All right. So apply that. And then we also need to allow, let's see, block. That allows us to ping, but we also need to have, I think we need to allow access to 53 as well. So I'll say, well, I guess it would be do invert manage. I kind of want to say, do we have an inverse rule? So source. WAN subnets. So the source can be anything except for the WAN. And the destination is this firewall. And it's port 53. And the protocol, do we get to choose TCP plus UDP here? TCP UDP? Yeah. So we're going to allow TLS. And then allow DNS queries. Save that one. And this one needs to come up on top. Yeah, that one's up on top. I actually want this one to go further up. Oh, whoops. This is always so confusing to me. Checked rules above this one. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, so now, whoops, not that one. We should be able to, we can still ping out. We can now, can ping the firewall yet. What? Hold on. Ping, destination is this firewall. Let me refresh. Okay, no, let me refresh this way. Oops. We're almost done. I just need those couple of ping. Okay. So that ping should match right here. Oh, interesting. So let's put this up above. Save. Do we need to apply? No, we don't need to apply. Okay. Okay, something weird's going on. This might be one of those cases where I just want to reboot it. Because then I want to put move checked above this one, right? So I want ping to be up there. I want to save it. Okay, apply changes. There we go. Echo request on any interface, source, destination. All right. Oops, I keep on going back to that thing because it looks like a terminal. But it's not the right thing. Okay. So this might be a case where I just restart this thing because by all accounts, that should be working. We're saying any source, destination of this firewall, ICMP, ping, should pass. And then the DNS as well. Let me just check and see if that one happens to work. Yeah, I know the order doesn't matter. It's just aesthetic. I like to have the ping one up top. Okay. Temporary resolution. Failure. Let's see, resolve.conf. Okay, that's not working. So let me try one other thing. I'm just going to try public name server real quick to see if our problem is purely local, which I think it is. Yeah, it's purely local. All right. So the problem with the name server is just with the ability to access that. So for the host settings for resolution, so I went back to the host node on here. I actually would like to set up a generic LAN, a global services LAN. I'm not going to do that tonight because it's just, I need to get done with this thing and go to bed. Let me see. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot this. Let's see, is reboot under diagnostics or is it under system? System, logout, update. Maybe under advanced. Let's see. Reboot. There it is. Under diagnostics. It's under diagnostics. So normal reboot. There we go. I'm just going to have it reboot because sometimes when things don't work with pfSense, you know, reboot or remove the rule and re-add it. I'm just going to double check some things because we had that working before we did the source port destination, the source destination matching that network failing, but we put a rule above that. Let's see, it's allowed to global services, and then okay, /12. There's a couple other firewall rules I want to put in place. So we're going to put a firewall in place that blocks the guests from going to the host network. I think that's all we're going to need. LAN allows whatever. Global services is going to be allowed to everywhere. Let's see, WAN. All right, so it's back up. Let's go ahead and log in again. I did change the password, right? And I gave it the good password. All right, cool. So again, we accept this. We close out of this. Because we're not using the subscription, that's gonna, just give that to us every time. Okay, let's see. Everything look good here. We've got our IP addresses, we got LAN, we got guest. That all looks good. Let's go back to firewall rules and make sure that they look right. So floating rules. If this still doesn't work, I'm just going to delete. I'm going to pause this and make sure that doesn't make a difference. But if that doesn't work, I'll just delete and re-add it. Whoops. Because we already know that it was working. All right. Temporary failure and name resolution. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me check the rules real quick. Okay, apply the action immediately. I forgot to check that box. So what it's going to do is it's going to keep on evaluating. It's going to get to the rule down here where it gets blocked. So same thing here. Apply the action immediately. Boom. Let's do those. And the floating rules are the rules that get processed before the rule. They're the rules that apply to all networks. Okay, now I keep on selecting this one by mistake. Now let's go back there. Now let's see what we get. There we go. Boom. That was it. That was it. It was just a matter of priority. Because if you don't say apply immediately, then what it does is it just keeps on going through. I don't know how it calculates it at the end. I guess any failure causes failure. But so I think the pass by default, I don't know. I actually don't know. That's something I need to look up. Ping replies are allowed because the state connection is allowed by default. So the block by default is incoming requests. The outgoing requests are allowed by default. And well, on the LAN, and then we added the that here. Okay, so the other rules that we need to add. So I added a rule. I'm going to click apply action immediately. This is going to also apply to all interfaces. And the rule is going to be, well, I guess, do I need to put it on there? I don't know. I just like having it at the floating layer. It probably should go, this rule probably should be defined on the opt interface rather than the floating, but I'm going to put it here for now. So if the source network is 10.0.0.0.8 and the destination network is 192.168.0.0/16, then we're going to reject it. Boom. And yeah, we got to leave that on there. Protocol would be any. Block guest to 192.168.star. And then we'd actually want to move this right around here. And then we're going to do similarly. See, I'm going to add right below that. Changes you made may not be saved. Okay, save changes. We're going to copy that. And then this one is going to be 172.16.0.0/12. All right, 172.16 0.0/12. Maybe I should rename the other one as well. Let me actually do that. So this one's 16. All right. So what this is saying is that the guest networks are simply not allowed to communicate to the other networks. They're not allowed. They're allowed to go out to the internet. They're allowed to talk within their own virtual bridge. They're not allowed to talk to each other. They're not allowed to talk to the management network. They're not allowed to talk to my home network when I get that connected, or my other lab. They're limited in what they're allowed to talk to. And then we will have a rule that they are allowed to talk to the global services network. So I'm going to put in the rule for that. First of all, let me make sure that I did have that apply immediately thing. Yeah, I had that there, and I think I had it on this one as well. So we're going to make sure that we have that on there. That's good. And then another rule that we're going to add is actually a pass. And it is going to be, I guess we shouldn't have it be on any. I guess I should have it be this. Okay. So this would be an invert match. So WAN. So as long as it's not coming from the WAN, anything is allowed to access global services. And the network that we're going to define for global services is going to be 172.19.0/16. So that's where we're going to have some things like SSO and databases that anything can talk to. That'll be our global services. And let's make sure that that looks right. So again, I want this to be up here. Save that one more time. Okay, so ping is allowed anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. I could say not allowed on WAN, but whatever. Anything's allowed to access global services. Oops. Also, anything is allowed to do DNS on the firewall. Anything's allowed to access global services. Guests are blocked from accessing other networks. Apply changes. So now DNS queries should still work. Whoops, let me go back over here. So DNS queries should still work. If I change etc resolve to use the DNS from the wrong address, but still represents the firewall, that still works. But I can't ping the host from the guest. So now firewall rules look pretty good. We're gonna do one last thing. I think this is the last thing for the night, and I guess I need to break this down into several different topics. The first one just needs to be getting internet access to the host, and then we can configure the guest network later and configure the domain name for the host and configure Acme and all that. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go to firewall. We're going to add a port forward that's going to be under NAT. So we're going to add, and we're going to say that the interface WAN is, and we'll let it be on either network. Well, we'll just add one for both. And this is TCP and UDP. It's just TCP. Source can be, yeah, this is the WAN. And then destination, I'm going to put in an address. I'm going to put in 172.18.0.31. 8006. Well, actually on the outside, we're going to do 443 to, on the inside, 8006. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I did this wrong. Destination, redirect target IP, the destination being the WAN. But we're going to bring it to this address to, and we're not going to do port ranges. Sorry, I messed that up. So HTTPS traffic on the WAN address is going to go to my Proxmox server 1, the MPLX1, to the port 8006. I'm just going to call that, well, I'll call it MPLX1 admin and save it and apply it. Alrighty. Filter reload progress. Okay. So what this means now is that I should be able to go to the dashboard, take a look at my public IP address. I should be able to disconnect from the switch. So now my Mac is no longer connected to that switch. And I should be able to go to my public IP address and get to ba-da-da-da. All right, so anybody who wants to hack this thing, there you go. Red team, have at it. It's on an isolated network. It is only connected to the internet, and it is not connected to anything else. So, have a good time, folks. Yeah, so now we've demonstrated everything that we need to demonstrate. It's a little bit frustrating because there's a lot of information there that went longer than I would have liked it to, but I'm glad that everything went really smoothly this time. And we did have one reboot that we had to do. It seemed. Oh no, we didn't actually have to do the reboot. It was because the rule wasn't set to immediate matching. So, point of note for that. Let me go back to captain's log here, IT captain's log in the data center. Go back to our IT captain's, oh, whoops. Can't access that anymore. We're no longer on that network. So, IT captain's log in the data center. So, what do? We got two dones. We have VLAN ID 601 for WAN, VLAN ID 401 for management. I don't think we set up any other, oh yeah, VLAN ID 1001. So node network. Then we have data center SDN. And then for this one, we chose 172.18.0.31, which that's kind of self-evident since we're already here. For this one, we chose 10.1.1 this. What else might we want to put in our captain's log for what we accomplished today? This is still up, but now I can't access it anymore. Okay, we did data center, firewall. Oh, well, let's see. I'm going to call this firewall. We did data center, PV admin for 8006.22. We did data center web dev for 2280 and 443. We demonstrated, so with pfSense, we have block enter guest is one thing we did. We also enabled so we did a port forward to Proxmox web admin. Yeah. 422 for, yes, thank you very much. I don't know how that happened. Frenzied mind, I guess. So Netgear switch, we have, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. And then this one is all, so I'm going to put capital T for trunk, capital T for trunk. Well, I guess I might as well type it out since it's going to render anyway. So I guess in that case, I might as well just, whoops, do this like that. And then do this like that. So just kind of take some notes here of what we did. Especially anything that might be easy to forget. So I mean that's basically it. With the firewall, with the pfSense, LAN and guest internet, block enter guest, traffic, port forward, allow pings to firewall. It's kind of where we're at. Okay, so we got that done. We got this done. We got this done. We got this done. So we got all that stuff set up. That's all good. One more thing we need to do is back up pfSense config. And since I'm relatively sure I'm not going to forget to, no, I'm not going to check a box before I do it. I'm not going to do it. Okay, we're going to go here. We're going to go under diagnostics. So we're back at pfSense. Oh, I have to plug back in to do that. I don't yet have a port forward for the pfSense. Okay, so let me go back in here. I'm going to go under diagnostic. I'm going to go to backup and restore. I'm going, we don't want package information. We don't want RRD. We don't want the extra data. We don't want SSH keys. We don't want it encrypted. I'm going to download the configuration. I'm going to put it in pfSense. So now what I'd like to do is make this just a touch more generic, because I actually want to distribute this with the material so that you don't actually have to go through all of this. I want you to go through all of this so that you've done it, and I want you to repeat it so that you know it, but I don't want it to be this tedium. So what we'll actually do is we'll provide one of these XML files where we copy out, say, 10 guest networks, and then you can just upload that file. You could go in here, you could select it, you could rename it to be whatever you want, but then we've got that pattern established of how this works and how this is set up. And the IP addresses won't matter too much. We do need to go in. There is a place in here. I got to find aliases. So what I do need to do is something like this. So we could say PVE1, and then it's a host, and then the address is 172.18.0.31. And then we can PVE hosts. Okay, so we could do that. And then we could do this. And then this would be MPLX 1. Sorry, PVE 1 for the generic way. PVE 2. Save this. Oops. Please match the requested format. PVE hosts. All right, save that. Apply it. Now, I'd also, actually, maybe I don't want to do that. Hold on. PVE hosts. Let's just do one. Let's do one for now. So I'm going to save this, apply the changes. So now if we go back to our firewall rule, our NAT rule, it'd be best if we just use aliases for everything that we can. So rather than using that IP there, I can do PVE host. And then I can save it. And then once that's saved, I should still be able to refresh here and see it. So that's one thing that we'll do for the export, is make sure that we have aliases for everything and we're not using IP addresses. That way you can change around your networks, whatever. And so here's another good one that we could do. So this would be PVE web UI. And this would be port 8006. And so then when I go back into the firewall here and the NAT, I could edit this. And instead of NAT port being that, we could go into, oh, does it not have it? PVE. Okay, PVE web UI. There we go. That's good. So save that, apply changes. Yeah. So there, that can be better or worse. Sometimes that's more confusing to do it that way. Sometimes it's nicer to just see the raw ports. Sometimes it's helpful. But anyway, we can do that. I'll go ahead and do the backup again. Backup and restore. Nope. Nope. Wait, do not back up this, do not back up this, back up that, no, back up that, no. Okay, there we go. We're good. Okay, so that is, yeah, that's probably several segments in terms of how do we get this thing set up. And some of that, I don't know how to make it much shorter, because there's definitely some things where they were done out of sequence, where it's like, oh, let's go back to this level. Oh, let's go back to this level. This is a really long one to rewatch. This is almost 3 hours long, but this was really productive. It was good stuff. It was, you know, fairly good pace. Oh no, did I do 433 again? What? Where did I do that? I made a double typo. Was that in my captain's log? Oh. All right, 443. All right, and we got the backup done. Okay. So too much for one sit down for sure. Needs to be split up. I'm not quite sure how to split it up yet. I don't know if there's actually a good point with this video where I could split it and it still makes sense, because there's still too much cohesion between everything that I'm trying to do. But I think I'm going to move on from this, because this topic is covered. We're ready to take this from draft state to better outline state. I don't think I need to redo it. The last time I did this, it was so bad. It just, the information wasn't valuable. It was so scattered. This time, what we did was really valuable, I feel like. So hopefully you got some value out of it too. Like, and follow if you want to. And yeah, we're going to call that a night. And I think what we'll do next time is work on our pre-cluster setup, because we didn't do that before. We went straight to the cluster. And so I think we'll do our pre-cluster setup, which is going to be a bunch of node administration stuff. Some options we have are doing permissions, because right now we're just logged in with root. It'd be really good to add some permissions on there and whatnot. Yeah, I'm also going to plug this, since, you know, who knows, maybe Red Team wants to come along and finds a way to get into this thing. Shouldn't really. It is okay for your Proxmox interface to be internet facing. I guess I could put some constraints in here. Like, I could add in my home IP address and say that, you know, only traffic from that is allowed, but I don't really want to do that right now. This is actually really cool. So lab 2 is completely isolated from my home and lab 1. Lab 2 is just the cable modem and this switch. And right now the only thing that's plugged into that switch is the cable modem. So that's pretty neat. I do want to add some port forward to be able to access well, what I'll actually want to do, and maybe I'll do this next, is I'll want to set up Caddy. I feel really comfortable with this setup. I'm going to set up Caddy. I'm going to set up a guest that's a Caddy guest. I think it's actually going to be, I might do the Ubuntu container. We'll see. I mean, the Ubuntu VM with CloudNet. We'll see. But I think that's one of the things I want to do, is I want to get Caddy set up as a reverse proxy, so I can hit the address and then do things like PVE1, PVE2, Firewall, you know, pfSense. Basically I'll have a password that has to be entered in at the Caddy level to be able to see the directory listing and go to the things, but then going to the things will you'll see when we get there, but I'll host them in a really simple and neat way. So maybe that will be the next thing. I'd really like to do it, but we'll see. Anyway, it's now 3 a.m. It's quite a bit later than I thought, but I'm glad that we did this. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Standard Error, thank you for pointing out my typos. Really appreciate that. And also thanks for the help along the way. Those are the rest of you that popped in. I hope you got something out of it. And unless there's any questions or comments in the next 30 seconds or so, I'm just going to wind this down, because I accomplished the goal for the evening. So I am going to go ahead and copy this over to a couple of people. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the playlist. So I'll give a link to the playlist as well. Again, feel free to comment with a question if you'd like to. I accomplished the goal for the evening. Oh, there we go. So let's go back to, we're going to add this one to, where's edit video? Oops. And we're going to do learn Colo. There we go. Added there. All right, I don't see any questions. So again, thanks for tuning in. And I am going to peace out. Now you just need proxy. Yeah. So that's one of the things I was saying that I'll want to add to this. And there's some caveats there. So obviously I'm not going to show doing the backup stuff, but we could add 2FA right now. That'd be good. So yeah, well, no, I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to save this for the permission and security stuff. Or maybe I could add something just real quick. I mean, we can have multiple TOTPs, so I guess I could go ahead and add one. Let me go ahead and add one. And the TOTPs aren't domain specific, so when we swap the domain, I'm going to show how to set it up with DuckDNS, just because anybody can follow along with that, whether you're at the data center or at home. So let's see. Oh, I actually need to name this. So do we want this to be user root? Description is going to be root TOTP. There's the secret. I guess it doesn't help if I show the secret on the screen, does it? Huh? Yeah, that's kind of a challenging thing there. All right. Oh, interesting. Huh. All right. Let's go to add another one. I'm just scanning this off screen. Taking an exorbitantly long time. Yeah. Okay, I got to choose the Proxmox logo. That's cool. All right. Root at MPLX1. Okay, now I get to put in my code. 330.093. Add it. All right, cool. So for what that's worth, I've now got that added. But yeah, WebAuthn you can only add if you have a domain. So I would never recommend only having WebAuthn, because if something gets misconfigured, the domain expires. If the domain is being, you got some stuff for domain management hosted on here, that could be a nightmare. I'm also going to go ahead and add some recovery keys. And let's go ahead and copy those. And then I'm going to put those on my account recovery root at MPLX. Yes. Good. Clear. Okay. And then get out of that. And I'd recommend, of course, physically, I think you ought to just copy them out and put them in a safe location. I prefer that to having them digitally, because to me that feels more secure. But again, I'm not really worried about somebody coming in my house, so and like rummaging through my sock drawer looking for recovery keys. Oh, but maybe one day I'll be at that level. Hopefully. All right. Yeah, so we got that on there then, but we'll go through the Acme setup. Okay, so goals for next time. Let's just set up a few goals for next time. So got Acme plus DuckDNS plus WebAuthn. I really like that. We've got Caddy plus PVE1 plus pfSense. Caddy with basic auth. That's really more of an advanced topic. I mean, I think it's something I want to cover, but I'm not sure where to put it in the actual training material. but we'll see. Okay. All right. I'm out. Have a good one, y'all. Thanks again, Senator. Bye. IPv6. I would love your help with IPv6. That is something that I am exploring, and I got Comcast specifically because they have unsupported IPv6. They won't answer any questions about it. They won't tell you what your prefix delegation is. They won't do anything. I went through 5 or 6 layers of support, not hyperbole, because it was chatbot to chat agent in India, to call in India, to level 2 in India, to level 1 in America, to level 2 in America, 6, to be told that they're not allowed to tell me my account details for IPv6. Which, I mean, this is the thing that in yesteryear you would have gotten in your welcome package technical details about your account. Now they've gotten rid of all their technical documentation, and it's been replaced with a chatbot that basically only has 3 things that it can say. Do you want to pay $100 for someone to come to your house to be able to tell you for $100 that they can't answer your question, that they're not allowed to? Or do you want to, I think it, like, maybe they can restart your modem or what? Anyway. All right. I'm out.